Yo, and welcome to episode a little bit more from Rob Clark and Compressors. Hope you're loving it. I know I am. Let's jump into the episode.
So, did we cover peak? I think we covered peak RMS.
Yeah, well, okay. What we
Shall we
haven't
go back through
covered,
it?
let's talk about the actual standard compressors for a second. Because they're,
Okay, mate. Yeah.
they're not that standard, really.
No. So the peak compressor was kind of inspired by. It's inspired by a 9098 compressor, which was made by AMEC.
Yep.
And that's got some pretty clever circuitry to stop distortion in the sidechain in fast peak modes. So it's got some hold time that's kind of dependent on decay, and some very clever stuff going on there to try and stop the compressor releasing too quickly. They're trying to hold it. If you set a peak in peak mode, you set very fast attack and release, the compressor can get overexcited and distort a bit on their left material. So there's some clever stuff in there, and we learned a lot about the way the non-linearities that I think Rupert Neve worked on that. So he was working with AMEC at the time, and that was a fascinating peak compressor to study, and that inspired our peak standard compressor. In some spaces, we didn't model all of the attack and release ballistics post threshold in the same way as it did, but we got bits from it. It's strange because we also threw our progressive knee modeling that we talked about earlier into that, and that's obviously from an RMS compressor. So very strange things. You're cooking and putting lots of stuff in the pot. So the peak compressor is a lot of fun, very accurate, doesn't distort as much as other peak compressors if you set attack and release ballistics fast, because there's some tricks going on, and you've got a progressive knee if you want it. If you're not limiting, you might want to put that on. I've met a couple of people that do. And you've got a comprehensive sidechain, obviously. What we then did is we also, the work we were learning on RMS compressors, like the study that we did on the DBX 160 and other RMS compressors, we then designed our own standard or default RMS compressor, which you know about, and that's also got a progressive knee, and that's got an RMS filter right on the input of the sidechain, like RMS compressors do have, and we also give some control on the attack and release ballistics manually.
Yes.
So that's quite a cool. I know a lot of guys that really like that RMS default compressor.
100%. Again, you can do a lot of damage with it. So.
And you get to see a gain curve. You get good metering. I think there's a lot of guys that are very happy with that. And, kind of inspired us on SQ just to stick that in with a switch between peak and RMS, and it switches between those two models. So.
Yeah, and in the SQ, just in this time we're in at the moment, with the last couple of weeks, there were a lot of churches that made contact and people going, how do we stream? So I taught that parallel technique, and I tend to do that in RMS. Now I'm not a mastering guy, but it really is a bit of a mastering trick, and I know that's in sometimes in those broadcast limiters, that's what's going on. There's multiple parallels going together, to get all those peaks down, but it works. I've had so many people come back just saying, oh, I've done that parallel trick on my left-right bus, on the SQ, just in RMS mode, and just being able to use the parallel and get much more level onto their stream without no plugins, not going out to third-party devices, and it's pretty amazing to have those facilities in a console like SQ. Now, so on that whole line, whose idea was it to put the parallel path in on the comps? Where did that come from?
I think it was just, it might have came out of development. I think when I was developing our compressors, I had the ability to go full wet and then maybe mix in dry. And I think we realised, again, it might have been some sound engineers said, I want to be able to do parallel compression. And we said, well, it kind of comes for free. And we couldn't quite see the catch. So we just put the two little edit boxes down on the bottom left, right, is where they sit. And you can switch them in and out and then dial in the dry and wet. And immediately we have people come back and go, we want a pot so we can dial between wet and dry. And then someone would say, no, don't do that. We want to be able to individually control the gain reduction of dry and wet individually. So don't give us a kind of rotary pot control. So that was the kind of debate I remember going on. And as soon as we did it, everyone was really happy. They didn't have to do parallel compression setup. I have a funny feeling we did it on groups first as well.
Yeah, okay.
But I can't quite remember. It's
Yep.
too long ago, and I don't remember stuff very well like that. I don't think we've missed any out. I think we've kind of covered most of them. I don't know if we really covered peak and RMS, the differences. Is that something you were trying to get into?
No, yeah. So let's have a discussion around peak and RMS. I was sort of saving that for part of the the standard comps, but also to and that Rupert Neve, that 1998 is a an awesome classic bit of gear.
So yeah, back to the kind of the RMS default and all the RMS compressors. By having an RMS filter pre-threshold and some ballistics either side of a threshold in the side chain, you kind of filter what hits when the threshold sees a certain level and what it sees. So an RMS compressor reacts on power. A peak compressor kind of reacts on level or voltage in a way. So a peak compressor is always sat there looking at the instantaneous voltage and responding, and then you can slew the attack and release manually or automatically. But an RMS compressor tries to compare the threshold with the power, right? Yep. So what that does is it might ignore instantaneous transients as it's trying to calculate the real true power of the signal. What that means is you could have a sharp snare drum hit an RMS compressor, and the snare, the detector in the sidechain doesn't see the fast transient. Yep. And doesn't produce gain reduction instantly. It goes, okay, there's a transient flowing through. I'm looking at the power, not the instantaneous voltage. And it lets that transient through. So a snare can shoot straight through a compressor, uncompressed. But meanwhile, the sidechain's ramping up its power calculation, going, gee, there is some energy here. Yeah. And suddenly triggers the threshold. If you set up a very, very fast attack ballistic on that RMS filter, it could suddenly go, right, I've got some work to do. And suddenly produce huge amounts of attack on the kind of body of the snare. Yes. So lets the transient through and attacks the body of the snare. Then after you've ramped up some makeup gain, you've amplified this whole compressed body of the snare. And that's why you can get some really big, powerful RMS sounds out of an RMS compressor. That's how it responds to transients. Meanwhile, if you put an RMS compressor on vocals, because it's looking at power, you can get a much more relaxed, less kind of excited kind of compression. So that's the other side, flip side of RMS compression. Some people just love the way it just looks at power on maybe more relaxed vocals or keyboards or maybe relaxed guitar sources where it just doesn't get overexcited where peak compressors generally do. So that's a very quick A to Z basic comparison of peak and RMS compression.
The standard RMS and peak compressors are not very standard, are they? It's great to hear from Rob that a lot of work and energy went into these compressors to make them special on their own. So let's take a look at those standard RMS and peak comps in the board, and let's look at what we were talking about. So I've got a snare drum, and first off, I'm going to use the manual RMS, and let's look at this, at what Rob was talking about, where even when you've got it on a fast attack, it still lets transient through. So I'm going to really speed this attack up. You can hear it still letting an amount of the transient through, even though I'm providing immense compression. You can back it off. So that's hopefully you're hearing there. Even when you're on the fastest attack, it's still letting an amount of transient through because of that design, because it's an RMS compressor, so it's looking at the average. And that first initial peak, it doesn't necessarily go, yeah, I need to bite down on you. Let's look at peak, what it does for us. Same snare drum. Let's go to manual peak, okay? Now, this one, I know, we can just take the whole front off the transient, you know? Okay, so it's just taking the front of the transient away, okay, as we were talking about. So these are not one-trick pony compressors. These are really, once you get into the controls and you've got obviously the side chain filters and all of those other bits, they are great compressors in the board that also can add great character. Back to the interview. I want the transient to come through, but then I'm using the controls to shape what happens after that transient comes through. So,
Exactly. Yeah, you kind of punch, kind of controlling how the RMS compressor can punch a sound.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can actually, if you really ramp it up, you can get like suckdown, which one of your phrases.
Yeah, yeah.
You can end up having the transient goes through and the whole thing just gets sucked out straight after the transient.
Yeah.
It can sound great. I love that.
Now, so the one that we haven't sort of talked about, which is in D Live as well, is the Dyne 8.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
which is its own wildebeest.
It is. It's a complicated beast, that one. So what happened there is we obviously modelled the BSS, and we got inspired by the way the BSS dynamic equalizer worked.
Yep.
And various other devices. XTA did a great box as well, and we looked at how that worked, and then we went off on our own and tried to work out. Well, maybe getting inspired by some of the way the ballistics worked on the BSS. We ended up designing our own dynamic equalizers and worrying about whether it was constant Q or non-constant Q and the relationship between cut and boost, and got through all that. But to be honest, the real issue is the presets and how you set that device up. And we were very lucky to have some sounding engineers out on the circuit. We have Steve Pato and Ben Booker were out working with iLive and GLD at the time, and we were lucky enough to have them do some presets for D-Live and show us how they're used in anger. And we learned a lot from those presets. You know, getting the real presets back from the engineers on how they would use a dynamic equalizer and multi-band compressor. And that's what I think. That's when I look at those devices, I see how the sound engineers want to work with them. And the GUIs, they're so versatile. The GUIs are quite complicated, and I always think that maybe there's a better way to give the engineer the ability to use these devices. But they're very versatile, but you have to know what you're doing.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, that's what I say when I'm using them or teaching people about them. It's like, you know, and the fact is you've still got your EQ. It's not sacrificing the EQ in the board, and it's not sacrificing your single band compressor. Then you've got another 8 bands here that you can really wreck things with. So, you know, so, you know, because the fact that you've got 4 bands of multi-band compression and then 4 bands of dynamic EQ, it is a beast, you know.
Yeah, you can often hear them. You can often hear a dynamic EQ moving, can't you?
Yeah.
And maybe that's when people have applied a bit too much. Yeah, this comes back to you, MixWizard. You need to educate all us on how to use these things. You know,
So,
it's not down to how you model it; it's down to how you use them.
No, definitely. So there's some videos coming, and you know, I saw something that Val did the other day, and he did some great explanations around them, and yeah, there's some great tricks, and especially because you guys put the side chain ability in the Dyne 8. There's some great tricks now where you can, you know, take a vocal mix and then a music mix, and just in the music mix, just side chain the mids out a little bit, or side chain a kick and a bass, but you're using the dynamic or the multi-band, just one band of that dynamically triggered off another source. So the side chain abilities and what you can do with those is pretty awesome. So
yeah, definitely. I'm sure there's more exciting work we could do actually on Dyne 8. So maybe we'll get more inspired by some. Maybe I'll hang out with you, MixWizard, and do some work on where that goes next.
Yeah.
Cool.
Nice. Well, thank you, Rob. I think, you know, that has been an unbelievable insight into, you know, compressors, Allen Heath. I'm looking forward to what the future has. you know.
Thank you.
And you know, I want to say, like, you know, I hope everything gets back to normal, but that I'm happy for you to be locked away and modelling at the moment. So, but you know, yes, we all want things to get back to normal.
I think we do. I think we do, Croft. We're working hard. A lot. The R&D team are working on 1.9, and
Yep.
there's going to be some interesting goodies in that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're all looking forward to it getting back to normal. But thanks for inviting me on your talk. It's been an absolute pleasure to hang out with you from the other side of the world
Yes.
and
Yes.
talk compressors. And I've enjoyed every single second of it. I have to
No.
say, you've done a tremendous job as well. So thank you very much for enabling me to talk.
No, well, yeah, thank you, Dr. Rob. And yes, I look forward to when we catch up at the next trade show in person.
Yeah. Okay. Cheers, MixWizard. I'll speak to you soon, mate.
So.
Cheers. Bye.